Now with the international break starting, I think it's a good time to look at the Arsenal squad and some of the recent decisions made by Mikel Arteta. Now I think it's evident that Mikel Arteta is learning every day, and in this video we're going to go through some of the key decisions he has made recently that are making the team better. So let's get into it. Now overall this video is going to be overall a squad update, but I do think it is very important to look at some of the decisions Arteta has been making recently, which in my opinion show improvement in there. Now Mikel Arteta has been given a lot of criticism for not pulling players out of international duty, especially when it's the Nation League games like it is now. We see Manchester City and even Liverpool do this a lot with key players such as Van Dijk and Salah, and even players like Haaland not being able to go on international duty, and there is a thought that Arteta should do more in order to keep the best players at the club. Now I do believe this is true. I do think we should protect our players more than anything, but if they want to play for their national team and feel they are ready and can do it, then you can't really disregard that and say no to them, so you kind of have to let them go. However, it does seem like Arteta has learned going into this new international break, and I think the last straw was realistically that Martin Odegaard injured. He wasn't the only one to get injured, of course. Tomiyasu has had multiple injuries on international duty. Even Calafiori picked up a slight knock and had to miss a game for Arsenal in the last one as well. But that Martin Odegaard injury, and I think how the Norway manager conducted himself in interviews, did really annoy Mikel Arteta. Now he's come out and said that he wasn't very happy with how the situation was treated, but kind of had to accept it given the moment it did. Now I think that moment alone has made Arteta be a lot more ruthless in allowing players to actually go abroad to their national team. And the thing is, I think it's completely valid. I think Arsenal, a lot of the players have been playing way too much, more than you probably would want them to. We're playing a game every 3 to 4 days. I mean, people like Kai Havertz have played nearly 90 minutes in every single game, and then he's going to go on international duty and have to run around loads for Germany while it's a game that isn't really at the utmost important. Now going into this international duty, if you don't know, Kai Havertz has pulled out of German football team with a knee injury, but I've heard by Chris Watts that he put on Twitter that it's not really a serious injury and it's more of a precaution because of the amount of games he's playing. And he is not the only player that Arsenal have done this to. Thomas Partey is another player that apparently is suffering from some sort of illness, not really an injury, but has also not gone to national team duty with Ghana, while people like Tomiyasu and Timber have also had their fair share of knocks recently and their time out of the team. Both haven't gone with their teams to sort of get more rest in at the Emirates. Now first of all, this is brilliant news for the club. These are the players I think specifically need rest. Havertz has played way too much. Partey has played more than I think anyone expected at the start of the season, actually being fit for all the games so far, which has been really good. And Timber, coming back from an ACL injury, really doesn't need to worry about playing any more games, and Tomiyasu has just come back from injury. These are players that are very important to the team, that can contribute in many ways, and if they were to get injured like we have some injuries right now, it would be a very bad situation. Now there's definitely the argument to say, why have Arsenal not pulled out more players such as Saka and maybe even Rice? But you can't pull out every single player, and sometimes players do want to play for their team. I do think Arsenal need to be smart with when they make these decisions, because there is another international break in 4 weeks, don't forget. Maybe you can pull Saka out for that one, or say to Lee Carsley, can you play Saka for a little bit of reduced minutes, because he does play nearly every game for you, so we can find a balance of him playing too much and also getting significant rest. And mostly throughout the team, I think Arsenal are in a position where a lot of these players are experimented with internationally, and a lot of them aren't necessarily guaranteed starters. Now Gabriel's only started a handful of games for Brazil. He's been playing more recently. Saliba, the same with him. He started a lot more recently, but isn't probably going to start every game. And other than Rice and Odegaard in that midfield, they do have time for players to get rest. I also do think that international football is quite bad. I am someone that is very negative on it genuinely, especially with these National League games, but I do think it can be a good opportunity to get fitness and comfortability on the pitch with good players around you for some of our players, and one specifically I think is Mikel Marinho I'm looking at. Now I know a lot of people have been criticising Arteta's decision to allow him to go to Spain duty, considering he hasn't even started a game for Arsenal and he's come off the bench in the last 2 games. But Spain have 2 home games against Denmark and Serbia, which are great games for him to come in. Marinho isn't a guaranteed starter for Spain anyway, so he's not going to play probably 90 minutes there. He may start a game potentially, but even then that's quite unlikely. And I do think it gives him a good opportunity to get up to speed with a great team like Spain, who are great at passing and keeping on the ball, for him to be ready to start for Arsenal after the national team duty. We've got some big games coming up, of course, after Bournemouth. We've still got Champions League. We've got Liverpool and Newcastle, and if he's up to speed even quicker and ready to go, I think it could be even better. So I do think Arsenal need to use the international international duty in very smart ways. Some players shouldn't go every time, and some players probably should go to gain more fitness. It's such as Ranieri going on duty with the England's youth teams, I think is very important, because I do think he needs that more game time at his age. And realistically, Mikel Arteta's decisions and the decisions by the club in this international duty have probably been affected heavily by not only the amount of games that we've played, but the Martin Odegaard injury. Now, I know there's a lot of discourse online about Martin Odegaard, but if you ask most fans in real life, there really isn't anything there. He is one of Arsenal's top players, and even though I've been critical of sometimes his role in the team, I still think he's one of the top players at the club and deservedly the captain. If he's fit, you want him in your starting 11. And I do think him being missed has been a big miss for Arsenal in many ways. We can go on about how they look great going forward, but I think that is more down to Calafiori and Timber rather than Odegaard not being there, and the fact that Trossard has stepped up in a role which he wasn't really familiar with before, which we really do take. But it would be so much easier if Martin Odegaard was in there as the pure creator instead of relying on Saka basically to do amazing work every single game. And speaking of Martin Odegaard, it seems like it's good news. He is back in training and has been on the treadmill and starting to actually run again. It seems like his injury is really getting better by the day, and hopefully he can be back, I'm hoping, before the Liverpool game where he can gain some fitness. I think it will be a few weeks until he comes back and he looks better every single day, which will be very important for the future. And ultimately, his injury means that he misses this international duty for the team, which I actually think has kind of come at a good time, because it's a nice break where Arsenal have had 2 relatively easy home games in the Premier League, and then they've got a lot harder schedule coming up. So I do think that this break is very important to reset ourselves, get some players back maybe from fitness. We've got Marinho, obviously, he's played a little bit, Odegaard to come back, and even the fullbacks like Timber and Ben White, we need to give them more time. And I do think that this has actually come at a good time for once for Arsenal. Now, I know in a perfect world we would have probably no one playing international duty, but sometimes we just have to accept it. And I do think that some injuries just happen no matter what, and I think more people were frustrated about the Odegaard one because it happened in these circumstances. Sometimes, you know, these guys play so much football nowadays that these injuries are going to happen. We've seen it so much with all these other teams, and injuries are being picked up left, right and centre. So we just have to hope there's nothing serious for the lads who do play on international duty, even though I don't think a lot of Arsenal players are going to start both games. Now, with that being said, there is clearly way too many international breaks at the start of the season, which don't mean a lot as well. So what is the point overall? But what sort of content do you guys want to see over this week and a half? Because I'm not really sure what to do. I have some good ideas, I think, for some videos, but it's just very hard when there's not really any Arsenal news or even football news going on every day. And in a sense, I would rather Arsenal not have any news in this 2 weeks, because it would definitely make it a lot easier compared to last time we had an international break and everyone was picking up injuries. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to watch any more of my content, watch my video about Martinelli and why he's thriving in the new tactical system down the left hand side. See you guys in the next one.